Oh, let me.
There you go, David. That works.
Man, let me hang on. So my turn that off. You guys are gonna have to deal with the less than amazing camera because apparently, since my other one is uploading videos right now, I can't use the good camera, but this will work.
Oh, you're all good.
The audio is good, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all we need. That's all we need. How you been though?
good, man. How you guys doing?
That's good. I'm in North Carolina, so I talk to Alex a lot, and he just mentioned you. Yeah. He's a character. I'll tell you that for sure. I like your character.
Oh, I don't know. Alex,
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm good.
That's good.
But how's your podcast going, David?
It's good, man. It's we've had some pretty cool guests. I mean, it's been fun. We just kind of fuck around and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I'm not nearly as intentional about growing it as I probably could be, but
It's an information security program.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, I'm glad you're here. You're one of my, I guess how you'd say, like, you're like Brandon Turner level. You know what I mean? So that's where I put you.
I'll be sure to call him and tell him that. Like, yo, I'm better than you are. I mean, equal to. No, Brandon's a super, on a real note.
Oh yeah.
Brandon's a super legit dude. He's everything about that man is just as legit in person as it is online. He's a good dude.
I bet. Like I talked to him once, and I was just in a mastermind, right? And I just asked him one question, and then he just basically blew my mind because of how much he knew about it.
Yeah, he does that from time to time. He's half the reason my business exists. So
yeah, and I also do love your book.
Thank you.
When it first came out, I was in airborne school, right? So I was like, shit, I can't get the physical copy. Might as well get the audio version. And everything made sense. So every time I see someone in the military, right, I'm like, hey, you guys gotta get this book. All right.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's we've actually had some pretty good reviews.
Yeah.
So far with it. So we're gonna keep that coming, I guess. We'll see.
All right. So let's start right here, David. How about you introduce yourself? Like, let's just say you're a big military guy, right? So as you know, yeah, you were. So
I mean, I'm reservist now. I'm nasty.
So what caused you what caused you to join the military?
And realistically, I think it was just that I had no money for school and I had no idea what I wanted to study. And I wanted to leave Arkansas. So I was like, well, the military is a great option. And then met with a couple recruiters and the Marine Corps seemed like the best fit for me. That was all she wrote.
Okay. Was this when you were 18 as well?
Yeah. Well, my parents wouldn't sign the paperwork. So I literally like signed everything on my 18th birthday and was at MEPS the next week.
That's fucking crazy. And
yeah.
What did you do before that? Like during like high school? Were you like?
Oh, dude, I was a fucking. I guess I should. Do you care? Like swearing?
No, swearing is allowed. You're in the military. What do you expect?
Hey, I always ask because I can turn it off, and a lot of podcasts try not to be explicit. But
that's proper review.
I'm sorry, I got wrapped around swearing. What was the? I was a fucking homeschooled weirdo. That's what I was. I was homeschooled. I went to public school like one semester. Parents were very conservative, religious. I was kind of, I don't know that you'd say sheltered. People probably wouldn't consider me sheltered because I was a bit of a rebel in high school, but I think that was because I was somewhat sheltered. So there was nothing special about me. I had like an afro and mutton chops and looked like Hyde from that 70s show.
Yeah. Now, were you like an introvert or an extrovert? Like whenever you were in high school, like when you first started?
No, I was definitely an extrovert. I was just a weirdo. I mean, I'm still a weirdo and I'm still an extrovert. So
that's all good. Now, for those like, okay, so this podcast,
well, where's my ice cream?
Your ice cream? Oh, Savi, why'd you get ice cream, bro? But there's a lot of young guys here, right? From ages 16 to 26, right? We're all. I basically bring all these guys together to be like, okay, we need to get our shit right. we need to get our finances right. We need to self-improve, right? We can't be lazy playing video games all day, which you can still, but let's make it where we're able to do that, not have any worries, where if you're financially free, then you can go ahead and play video games all you want. But let's get to that point first.
Yeah, you use your video games as a way to decompress after a good day's work and a reward, rather than just like I'm gonna get stoned to play video game all day and then I didn't have anything to show for my day. Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah, I got you.
So what would you recommend?
And I was playing Mass Effect last night as my whatever. So I get it.
Speaking of that, like what caused me to fucking get into real estate and all that was because I play a lot of GTA, right? And GTA, you buy a lot of properties, businesses, right? I'm like, wait a minute, I can just do this shit in real life. I'm spending so much time doing it in a video game. Why can't I just do it in real life? And it's not that hard. So
no, it's not. It's fun.
It's fun. It's stressful, but it's fun. You can't rage like you do in a video game. Like you can't talk shit, but you got you could.
It just depends on your level.
That is true.
At some point you can be like, all right, motherfucker. But it just depends. Like I don't deal with any of my tenants, so I don't have to deal with most of the stressful stuff. I just have a property manager.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I've been doing legal depositions all day, so I'm freaking pooped.
No, you're all good.
Should have made some coffee before we started recording. No, I'm just kidding. The real thing is that I got sleep apnea and I haven't got my CPAP in, old man problems. And so I'm just, even if I'm fully rested and caffeinated and whatever, my body is still like, hey, asshole, you're tired. You didn't sleep very much. So,
how old are you right now, David?
31.
31. That's not old. What are you talking about?
It's old when it's like 13 years in the Marine Corps, your body starts falling apart.
That is true. Yeah. When you're in the Marine Corps, you kind of like triple.
No, it's just an old man problem to have like a CPAP and a sleep apnea. It's not like a normal, it's a new development in life.
What were you whenever you were in the military? Like, what was your whole
motor T? 88 Mike in the Army, whatever. So
yeah.
I drove trucks, transportation, logistics, but I kind of did everything. So I say that I went to, I was a safety rep at one point, which is a secondary MOS. I was a command financial specialist at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I did infantry machine gun leaders course. I did pre-scout sniper school. I never went to full. I tried out for MARSOC and I, DOR'd for medical reasons and whatever halfway through, and then ended up on recruiting. So kind of been around the block. I did my first deployment. I was motor T still, but we were a security element. So I was, driver of the lead Vic for convoys for the whole deployment. So got to do and see some cool stuff. But so motor T, I say all that just to say motor T was a lot cooler in 08 than it is now. Cause it's all right, now you really do just drive around. We're like glorified milkmen. Whereas in 2009, 2010, motor T was like putting a mine roller on the front of your truck, driving a convoy and hoping you didn't get blown up with a little bit more excitement.
Yeah. So. Why have you never have you thought of going through the officer route whenever you were in?
I thought about it. So you have to commit 10 years. So if you commission, you have to do 10 years after you commission. When I first joined, I didn't have college. And then I was like, college is dumb. So I didn't do any of my first 4 years. And then I was like, well, I'm going to be MARSOC. So I don't need to be an officer. And then that failed. And then I got told I was going to be a recruiter. So then it was like, all right, well, maybe after recruiting. And then by then I just kind of realized I much prefer the blue collar side, working with the Marines, than I did the office and policy side, which jokes on me. As you get promoted on the enlisted side, you still get stuck in an office. So I don't know. It just never really seemed like the right fit for me, personality wise. I don't know. I mean, I had the scores and everything, but I looked at it. I submitted. Well, I didn't submit a package. I filled out a package once for MESEP, but I never submitted it. So
gotcha. And not even a warrant officer route as well.
So in my MOS, if you go the warrant officer route, you end up on the maintenance side, and I don't enjoy that. Didn't enjoy that. So I had no interest really in being a warrant officer in the motor T community.
Gotcha.
I had thought about jumping into the Army on the warrant officer program at one point to fly helicopters, but I just then I decided to get out instead. So
Oh, that sounds like a great opportunity to just fly helicopters everywhere.
Yeah, the Army is the only one who let warrants do it.
Yeah. And for these guys, right? They're trying to decide, hey, should I join the military? Should I go to college? Should I get some like job, or like what should I be doing? What would you recommend to those that are like in that situation?
All right, I'm super biased.
Yeah,
But
I
I
know
would
that.
tell you that unless you have a full scholarship and you know exactly what you want to do with your life, the military is awesome. And I say that because college is expensive as shit. And what I saw as a recruiter, and my wife is a high school counselor, so like I kind of see, I can kind of bounce some things off what she sees with former students, and like people go to school right out of high school. And I don't have statistics, but I would be willing to bet at least 60% of the people who go to school right out of high school don't graduate with the degree that they thought they were going to. And I don't remember the stats, but it's like over half change degree once. And of those, I would imagine over half change it at least twice. Like it's crazy. So it's like, okay, you don't, not everybody, but a lot of people have no real idea what they want to do. They just like, I think that's cool. Let's do it. And then that changes, right? Like if I'd gone to college right out of high school, I would have gone to become a mechanical engineer. I had the scores. I like building stuff. Seems great. Would never have graduated with that degree because I wouldn't have enjoyed the school at all. And I wouldn't want to do that now. So like, even me, it's like, well, I changed what I wanted to do like 10 times. So I say that because it's like, okay, you can pay to go to school and you may or may not even end up in a career field that you want to, or you may do more than 4 years of school. So you're paying more for school, or you join the military, you get paid like you're earning a salary, and then you can go to school for free, either while you're in or after. And hopefully, in that first 4 years, you have a much better idea of who you are as a person on your own, and a much better idea of what you actually want to do with your life. I mean, I got my associate's degree and was like, yep, still don't like this, probably never going to do any more school. And I transferred my JIBL to my kids. But to each their own, right? College has a ton of benefits, but I think that those benefits are mitigated if you don't really know what you want to study and you just kind of go for like the experience. And not to say that like you won't have fun at college, but I mean, and I heard people tell me all the time, like, well, I'm just going for the experience. Like, all right, well, having been around, I can tell you that like Tokyo, Thailand, Korea, like there's a lot of places you can have fun life experiences outside of college. So,
What about though? I know I have some guys here that are trying to trying to do college and military, but they're trying to focus on the military aspect of it, but they have no experience in the military. That means their family has never been to the military. So they're trying to take the Jrotc route, and they're trying to go to the military with that. But I discussed like, hey, do you really want to do this? Like, you don't even know if you want to be in the military. Like, how about you just go as enlisted? If you like it, you can go as an officer. You can change it to becoming an officer, or you can, or if you don't like it, just leave the military. You don't have to like, because once you do JRTC, like again, I don't know if the same rules apply, but I got to do like another 10 years with the being an officer in the military.
There is a commitment. Yeah.
So what would you say to that?
I think you could go either way. What I would say is that if you want to go the JROTC route, like you need to at least be honest with yourself about the requirements for getting into a JROTC program. And those are different per branches of the military, but like for the Marine Corps, like the NROTC scholarship to get into the like being a ROTC like officer, like that's not easy. And I say that not to discredit anyone, but just like have a real conversation with yourself and know if that's really an option before you say that's what you're going to do. Because, I mean, you got to be in great shape. You got to have good ACT scores. You got to have good ASVAB scores. You've got to be, you're more competitive if you want to be like a JAG or a pilot. If we're being honest, you're more competitive if you're a female or if you have some diversity in your background. And that's just the military is trying to make sure that it's not a whole bunch of, white males that are running everything. So they're cognizant about that. And I say that like it's kind of joking, but it's a real thing. Like
It is, yeah.
when you went as a former recruiter, like when we applied, it was literally one of the questions like, do you have any diversity? Okay, do you have any kind of like, maybe we could, but are you maybe? Yeah, no, yep, we're putting that down. Thanks. And it really does make, and females, because there's a lot more men in the military. So that's, but I mean, I say all that like not to discredit, like we had guys, I think we had 3 or 4 people that we helped get the NROTC scholarship while I was a recruiter. 1 female, 3 males. 3 of them had diversity. One of them was, typical Caucasian, me, white guy, right? So
yeah.
So it's totally possible, but you got to know, like, okay, am I in shape for this? Do I have good test scores for this? Like, is this really an option? And yeah, there are some requirements in the back end as far as time and service, but I think the enlisted side is great if you don't know what you want to do, right? But if you think like, well, I want a way to pay for college and I know I want to do both, like, yeah, the ROTC program can be really beneficial as well.
Yeah, I do agree on that. And whenever you were in the military, right? When did that financial freedom start hitting your head? Like, hey, I probably got to get this thing done. When did that start hitting your head?
I'm sorry, I got distracted there for 2 seconds. My cleaner for my Airbnb is messaging me that she's at the house and doesn't have the code for the lockbox, so I had to, for the door. So
No, you're good. I get
she's
this
late.
too.
That's what she gets for being late cleaning. So, by like 2 hours. So
Yeah,
not my problem.
at this time.
Huh?
At this time, she's cleaning.
It's only 4:30. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a guest checking in tonight, so
Oh, okay.
it's whatever. We'll see. I wasn't super impressed by this cleaner right off the bat, so
Yeah.
this is her second time, and depending on how it goes, it might be her last, but
Yeah.
who knows? Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. I like to hear about that. I mean,
Yeah,
these are real real estate problems. A lot of guys will be like, no, everything's fine, everything looks great, but this is actually a real
no.
thing.
Yeah, there's all kinds of issues all the time, but the pros definitely outweigh the cons.
So when did real estate or financial freedom start hitting your head? Like, hey,
2015.
2015. Wow, the exact date.
7 years in. So probably like August, September, October. Somebody was trying. I was a recruiter. I had been in for 7 years. I deployed. I'd done all the things, and somebody was trying to get me to join like Amway to sell whatever, and they handed me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then they were like, yeah, you should do this. This is going to be great. And I was like, well, I don't like to read. And then they gave me a CD and they were like, well, listen to it while you drive. I'm like, okay, I can try that. And so I was listening to it while I drove around on recruiting duty, and man, that thing hit home. By the time I was done, I was like, wow, passive income sounds awesome. Financial freedom sounds great. Real estate sounds cool. And I had thought about buying a house when I first moved to Missouri. So I was like, this is all awesome. This is great. And then, I don't know. I was hooked. I started doing a bunch of research, stumbled across Bigger Pockets, and decided I was in a house hack. So buy a duplex, live in one unit, rent the others. And just so happened that my lease on my apartment was coming due at like the same time, and all the stars aligned and everything worked out. And I was like, well, let's do it. And then after doing that, I was like, wow, I'm living for like almost free in this house. This is cool. And then I moved out because I PCS'd, and it was like, wow, I'm like getting paid to own that house. That's really cool. This whole cash flow thing's awesome. And then from there, it was like, let's buy more real estate. Let's save more money, buy more real estate. Let's learn more. And it was almost, not 2 years. It was probably 13 or 14 months. No, 14 or 15 months after that first purchase before I bought my next investment property. But so it took a long time to save up for the next one. But that was when the hook was set.
Yeah, that's a lot of people actually, where the first property is like easy to get, right? And then it's not easy, I would say. Mostly it's mentally hard to get. And you can easily get it with like the type of loans and the type of what's on your credit. But
Yeah,
after
especially with
that,
like the VA loan or the
yeah,
FHA loan, like low down payments, low barrier to entry.
yeah. And then after that, I see like, oh, it takes like probably like another 2 years to like get that financial to get that other property. Even though this other property is being paid off by your tenant, it just now it's just a lot more harder because your debt to income ratio and all that crap. And it just comes together with that. So
Yeah, and if you have to use an investment loan, you got to put a lot more than zero down.
yeah, by most likely 20 to 25%, just so you don't get
Yeah.
that PMI.
Yeah, on average, I pay 15 down, but that's super local lender. That's not like your normal's 20, 25.
Okay. And can you talk about how many properties do you own? Or do you, yeah, how many properties do you own?
Without having to do a whole bunch of math, somewhere between 15 and 20. 102 occupiable doors, and we own a house that we're renovating, and we have 6 under contract, but we're only going to keep 2 of those.
Okay.
So 4 of them we're assigning, we're wholesaling, and 2 of them we're keeping. 1 we're going to burr and so refi and hold as a rental, and 1 we'll probably just flip. So I've got 102 rental units with 3 that'll be under construction within the next 2 weeks. And in
Congrats.
that, we've got a 40-unit hotel, a 23-unit apartment, a 15-unit apartment, a 10-unit apartment, and then a whole bunch of like 1 to 4 units.
That's crazy. And from your first property, where I'm guessing you use your VA to get a duplex.
I did not, because
Oh.
I didn't understand the VA, so I used the FHA. My lender told me you could only use the VA loan once, so he said don't waste it, and he was wrong, and that was dumb, but I didn't know any better. So I paid the 3.5% down on the FHA loan, and went on my merry way.
For these guys here, how many times, like the military guys here, how many times can you use the VA loan?
There's not like a set number. The most I've seen anybody have at once is 4. I say it once, it was over time, but because what it is like your first use, there's no limit to it. But after that, the limit is based on your county, zip code, whatever. So if your first purchase is $200,000 and you live somewhere where 500 is the limit, then you could buy another house down the road for another $200,000 or $300,000 and be totally fine. If your first purchase is in San Diego and it's $1 million triplex or fourplex or whatever, well, then there's no other county in the country that you'll be able to buy another house, because you'll be over the $970,000 limit in even the most expensive county zip code. So like the limit is anywhere between, they just updated it. So the high is 970, and I think the low is like 520 now or 560.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live. And so, if your first purchase is super expensive, then after that, you're pretty much screwed until you either sell that one or refinance it into a conventional loan. But if you buy, if you're in like Missouri, you buy like $100,000 duplex, and then you buy like a $200,000 fourplex, and then you buy another, like you could buy a third $200,000 fourplex and be fine. So it just kind of depends. Gets kind of complicated after that first one, as far as like, can I do another? Like, well, maybe, probably. It just, you're gonna have to figure out, like, for your specific situation, what you got to do to make sure you're within that. And if you go over the entitlement amount, that's fine. You just have to pay 25% down for whatever you go over. So let's say for simple math that your limit was 500,000, your first purchase was 300,000, and your second purchase was also 300,000. Well, for that, the first 200,000 of that, you'd put nothing down, but because the last 100 would go, would be over that $500,000 limit, then you would have to put 25% down. So for a second home of 300 grand, you would have to put 25,000 down, which is still better than, if you were using most other loans, but it gets complicated.
Is it 25% of the 100K, or is it 25% of the whole 300K?
Yeah, just 25% of whatever you're over your limit.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that part.
So it's still pretty sweet. It's just gets complicated.
Gotcha. And do you use the same lender for your VAs, or do you try to be like different? Because I feel like, they don't know, maybe I'm not using a VA or something like that. Do you ever get that feeling?
If you get with the right lender, then yes. The problem is there's a lot of, so not all lenders are created equal, right? So any residential lender could theoretically do a VA loan. That doesn't mean they know anything about it. And so like the problem is, if you look at like we'll use cross country mortgage. My best friend is a loan officer for cross country mortgage. He's amazing with the VA loan. But because he's amazing with the VA loan doesn't mean that every other cross country mortgage lender is. He spent a ton of time getting very familiar with the VA loan. So he's amazing. There are other VA loan, VA lenders in cross country who are also amazing, but it's not because like, oh, they're with cross country, they're amazing. It's because they took the time to become a very good lender who specializes and is very knowledgeable about the VA loan. And so it becomes kind of a, hit or miss. So I'm actually, I haven't announced this yet. So, and nothing's official. So I'm not going to like name names or anything, but I'm working out a contract to partner with / employ with a company that the guy who's building this also owns a network for training people on the VA loan. And so while this company will not be VA loan focused per se, they will all understand the VA loan and have connections. So I'm really trying to solve that problem, to have like one space to be like, anybody can go here and be taken care of. Because that's just not an answer right now. Like any state you go to, it's going to be totally different. So I'm trying to partner with someone right now to solve that problem, because it's complicated.
So with your first property, you used FHA, and so how'd you get to your second property? What was that story?
Second property was a 10 unit, and it was 5% down, 85% bank financing, and 10% seller financing, which is kind of crazy, but it was not off market, but it was a deal that had been sitting around for a while. I was mailing people looking for duplexes. And this guy called me and was like, well, I don't have a duplex, but I got this 10 unit. I'm like, well, we had to talk terms. We had to do all this stuff. And then with the inspection, we dropped the purchase price, and the bank didn't realize it. So they brought the same amount to closing. So it was going to be 80% bank financing, 10% seller financing, and 10% out of my pocket. Mm-hmm. And then the bank showed up with more than they needed to for closing. So I just paid 5% down, and the bank took the difference, that's a pretty high leverage loan. And on a larger purchase, like a 10 unit, it definitely feels more risky. But, I bought that when the market wasn't as crazy, and I bought it at a discounted price for what the rents were on it, because it was undervalued, or it was a value add. Like it had a lot of things that needed to be updated. And so, at this point, I've owned that thing for just about 5 years. Nice. And I've refinanced twice on it and pulled almost $80,000 out of it. And wow. I am under contract to sell it here we close on the 27th of February. And assuming that goes through at the sale price, I stand to make, I think my mortgage on it's like $245, and we're under contract for $340. So
that's good.
It's still going to have to pay a commission, and still going to have to do some stuff for the inspections, but we'll do fine when we sell that. So
now with the commercial lending that you use, anything 5 properties, 5 units and up, it requires commercial lending. Now with commercial lending, I know that a lot of things like the inspection is probably more expensive. And what's different other than the other lending?
Well, I'll tell you, commercial lending is way better. Just way better. It's not even like, so for example, man, I almost want to do this. It'd be funny to just call my lender and be like, hey, $1 million, 30 unit property under contract. What documents do you need from me? And he would probably be like, oh, we got your file. We'll let you know if we need anything. And that would be good. That'd be it. He wouldn't need, I've got loans going with him right now. And it's like, so like the last, like no joke, the last refinance I did with him was this 4-plex. So, well, that wasn't the last one, but it's the best example. I walked into his office. I was like, hey, I was opening a checking account. I got this 4-plex. I just bought it. I bought it cash. Like someone lent me the money for it. I want to refinance it. What do you need from me? And he literally like pulled out a piece of paper and was like, what's the address? Wrote the address down and was like, what'd you purchase it for? And I was like, 90,000. And he like wrote that down. And then I was like, he's like, okay, yeah, I'll get started on this. And I was like, what else do you need from me? And he was like, we'll let you know. And then like literally like 3 weeks later, they were like, hey, do you want to close this on Monday or Tuesday? You can just come by and sign. You're going to need to bring, $1,500 by for closing costs. And I was like, okay, cool. Thanks. Like, it was like they're so easy. When you first do that loan with them, they want all your financial statements and all your whatever. But like at this point, he has all my loans, so he sees all my payments and all my debt and income and whatever in his account. And so like for him, it's just like they literally just have to decide, hey, do we trust him to make his payments? Yes. Okay, cool. So it becomes really sweet. Whereas with like normal like residential loans aren't that bad, but when you get to like primary mortgage, like primary residence, when you're talking like VA, FHA, 5% down, conventional, USDA, like the rules on those are so crazy that it just becomes a pain in the butt. Like, you've got to have 2 W-2s and 2 years tax returns and a pay stub before you close. And you have to, if you wired the money for the down payment from the wrong checking account, they would have to like redo a bunch of paperwork to show which checking account it came from. Whereas like with this guy, I can show up with a checkbook and like write the check in hand and be like, thanks, dude. Appreciate it. High five. Like I could probably show up with $100 and be like, oh, you said closing costs were $100. Like here's $100 bill. Like they don't care where the money comes from. They don't, it's just a much easier process. It's not nearly as regulated. Inspections are a little more, appraisals are done by income. I mean, there's 3 ways to do it, but the main way is by how much money the property made. So as long as the property made what you think it made, it's going to appraise. It's not too bad.
And do you always have to put like 20 to 25% down on commercial lending?
Depends on your lender. Like I said, I do 15 on everything. So
okay.
But that's a super local lender who we brought $4 million worth of mortgages over to last year. So
now, what would you recommend to those that are trying to find like these guys right here? Whenever they think of lending, right, they're like, oh, Chase Bank, TD Bank, right, or Bank of America, like these big chain banks. How would you recommend these guys to find those private lenders, like those like small banks near them that can do those big favors?
If we're doing this real, I would say open your Play Store or your App Store or whatever and type ICBA, and you're going to come up with this, which is the local community bank. It's called ICBA Community Bank Locator. And you're going to download it and then open it. It opens and it literally just opens to, it says zip code. And so like, what's your zip code?
28311.
And you click locate, and this pops up and it's going to search. So you've got Wood Forest National Bank, Fort Sill National Bank, Lumbee Guarantee Bank. Those are the only ones that pop up. Hey, look, Fort Sill. Let's click on that. It's got a phone number and a URL and a location, address, whatever. But like those are local banks, right?
Yeah.
And so the odds are you don't know for sure that a local bank is a portfolio lender, right? So like if I look at mine, because I know my area at least a little bit. Let's see, off the top of my head, it's a 65804. If I locate it, so I got Regent Bank, Academy Bank, Bank of Missouri, Springfield First, O'Bannon, I think is a portfolio. Oak Star, they did a lot of my loans for a little while. That's how I found them. Where's my actual bank? There we go. Old Missouri Bank. Old Missouri. They're a portfolio lender. They'll, this is the reason you want a portfolio lender is because and what a portfolio lender means is somebody who houses the loan in-house. So like nothing, like not to say like Navy Federal is bad or Chase is bad. I mean, I use a Chase business card. I have Navy Federal for auto loans. I've got all these things. So it's not like, oh my God, stay away. But what it is big banks are more cumbersome. And they're, if you were to say, like, if they told you, we don't like how that property looks, we're not going to lend to it. Like, well, then you're going to have to go find another bank. Whereas like this fourplex it's a beat up property. And when I went to do the refinance, he called me at one point and was like, hey, they weren't really fond of the condition of the property. what does it make for rents? And I was like, this. And he's like, are you going to update it? And I was like, yeah. Like, okay, hang on. And he like literally went and talked to the board, came back and said, you're approved.
Wow.
Like, awesome. Thanks. Because they don't sell the loan off. They do everything in house.
Yeah.
And so they can make their own decisions, right? Like, oh, well, is he a good lender? Like, or borrower? Is he going to pay us back? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll lend him the money. Like,
now you spoke of credit cards earlier, David, and would you recommend guys getting their credit cards first or getting their loans first in a way? You know what I mean? So I'll better explain that. So the reason why I say this is because got a lot of guys that think, oh, I'll get my Chase credit. I'll earn up to probably like a 750 credit score so I can get that Chase credit card. So whenever I have to buy supplies or anything for my property, I can use that on my credit card and get a really good discount off or have save some more money off of that. Would you recommend that? Or would you say like, don't even worry about that. Just go get that house first. And then if you can get a credit card, get a credit card.
The problem is if you don't have credit, you're not going to be able to get a loan, right? So having credit established is very important.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to do that is to start a credit card.
Yeah.
And then to make like pay for a tank of gas every month and then pay off your card immediately. Like, don't have a balance on your card. Don't miss payments on your card. Just use it once or twice a month and then pay it off immediately and pretend it doesn't exist. And that's probably the fastest way to build credit. Credit cards are great tools. I mean, shoot, I got 2 sitting on the desk right now. I've got 2 or 3 more. I don't know. I got 3, 4, 5 ish credit cards. I have one that I never activated, whatever. But they're great tools that if misused can cause great damage, right? So like I've got a card right now with $24,000 on it. And if that was my normal, that would be really bad. But that is a, kind of an interim thing where I paid $8,500 for a piece of land that I'm selling and also spent $10,000 on marketing that is bringing us in a bunch of deals, and all those deals that are under contract right now, they're going to sell. I think we're going to gross 52.5 from that in the next couple of weeks. And so I will then take the 52.5, pay off the credit card. Now I've got 25, pay my partner 10,000 for his acquisition. Now I've got like 15 and we keep rolling. Right. Gotcha. So, it really depends on how you use them. Right. So as long as you're going to pay off the card, it's not bad to have cards. But that's the highest I've ever had on that card. And I'm very uncomfortable with having that kind of a balance. So it's like, okay, I need to make sure I pay that off. Right. But if I didn't know that I was going to pay it off and that I wasn't going to be able to pay it off, I would never use the card like that.
Yeah.
Which is why like these are literally sitting here because today I was like, oh, I forgot I had these cards. I should probably put them somewhere so I can use them, because this one has 133,000 airline miles on it, which is, enough to do like 1 or 2 round trip tickets, depending on where I go. And I haven't used the card in like a year. And so I forgot about it. And we're about to expire. I'm like, ooh, I need to use those.
Hey, David, don't worry. I went to one of these real estate meetings and then there was this one dude that was like, bro, I have $89,000 credit card debt. I'm like, what? He's like, hey, it's scary. I go to bed thinking of this. I'm like, dude, what's going on with you?
That's not good.
So would you recommend guys to, like, let's say they started their credit, right? They started their credit. It's like 2 or 3 years old. And they started on like 4 secured cards, right? And they're like, okay, I go get a mortgage and either I get a loan on a house, right? An FHA, or should I get these other credit cards? Or let's say they already have an FHA, right? They're house hacking, right? And they're like, okay, I want to get these other properties, but should I get a 20% conventional loan on a property, or should I wait until my credit score is a little bit higher and get these other credit cards, like the Chase Sapphire card, the Amex cards, right? Should I get these cards because they're pretty? Exactly, look at that, and they can save my butt because I can save money and I can basically use that as like a temporary loan. Would you recommend getting the tools first or just getting in there?
I think having a card or two to build credit is great. I think if you're like taking on a whole bunch of credit cards just for the sake of having the credit cards, like there's probably a safer way to get into real estate.
Gotcha.
That being said, I mean, I'm all for like, I have a lot of friends who do the points, like credit card point hacking or whatever. That's just not my game. That's too
Yeah.
complex. I like to keep things simple, which is why these have sat in a drawer forever because I don't need them. So I don't carry them around with me. And it's like the simpler the better. So I guess that would be my answer is like, you know, if you need to have a card or two or three, great. If you want to use one or two or do the chase, you know, 60,000 bonus points and then roll that into, like, that's cool. Just don't overcomplicate your life so much that, you know, you lose track of payments or whatever.
Gotcha. And so from your 10 unit apartment complex, right? Was everything like getting to a faster pace now? Were you scaling up a little bit more quicker than you did before?
Yeah. Let's see. It was probably like 14 or 15 months between the first purchase and the second purchase. And then I took on another deal just about it, like just under a year later. But that deal didn't go so hot. So then I had a bunch of debt that I needed to pay down to get into my next one.
Yeah.
It didn't really start to grow like quickly until probably like 2020.
Yeah.
So probably like, I don't know, almost 5 years, probably four years into real estate. And that was when it was like, okay, well, I'm going to buy this duplex. And I think we bought in 2020, I bought a duplex. I bought a portfolio of 4 properties, 1 duplex and 3 houses. And then I think I wholesaled like 1 or 2. And then I
Yeah.
kind of started to learn about the off market stuff. And then from there, it kind of grew into like, okay, now we found this big deal with like 79 units and we found like 6 other wholesales and then we found like 10 other wholesales and then just kind of goes from there.
Now, whenever you were, sorry, I just had a brain fart. I forgot what question I was going to ask, but
Good, you're good.
these, fuck, I forgot what question was in my head, but, so, oh yeah, the partnerships, right? You said you use partnerships, and what's your view on partnerships? Because I know a lot of guys, right? They go into real estate thinking I'm going to own all these properties on my name, no matter what. Go, right? And it's a lot slower for them, right? They're like, no, I don't care what it is. I just want it on my name because I can do it all by myself. More equity for me. I mean, more cash flow for me, I guess. What's your view on partnerships?
Well, first thing, and I know this isn't what you were getting at, but first thing, I only own 1 property under my name. Everything else is owned by LLCs. So I would say that the only house you own under your name is your primary residence.
Of course.
But that being said, I have 5 or 6 LLCs and 3 of them have partners and the other 3 are all me. So, well, I say me, but me and my wife. So I have one that holds, I don't know, probably like $600,000 worth of real estate. That's my wife and I, and that's, you know, 100% me. One for my brand and one for all the wholesaling and everything. Those are all me. And then I have 3 that are partnerships. Two are 50-50 partnerships. One was for a specific deal. One was for a few deals that I was doing with my roommate in California. And then I have one that is a 3-way partnership where it's me, my buddy John, and Hugh. And that's the one we bought the hotel, the 2 apartments and a house. Because that was a really big, you know, I needed $300,000 down to close on that. And I had a third of that. And so I called my friend Hugh and was like, hey, you own a hotel. You have $100,000. You want in on this? And he was like, you know, obviously it was more complicated conversation than that. And he was like, yep. And then my roommate, I was like, yo, you want to jump in on this deal for $100,000? And he was like, yep. And then, you know, whatever. So there's not like a right or wrong answer. Doing things on your own is great. Like I definitely do a lot of stuff on my own and it's easier in a lot of ways because you make your own decisions. That only works if you're like me, where you can make your own decisions and like keep your foot on the gas. If you're not a person that like knows what to do next, or you're not a person who will do whatever needs to be done next, like you're a massive procrastinator, like a partner will probably help you out because they'll be like, hey, hey, jerk, like, did you remember to schedule insurance on that? Like, yeah. But if you're like, oh yeah, I'll call them next week, like, you probably don't want to do it on your own. But it really depends, because there's a lot of perks, you know, you make more money, whatever, but you might not buy as much real estate. Like, I would never have been able to buy those 79 doors on my own because I didn't have the 300 down. So I partner with two people. I make a little bit less money, but I own a third of a partnership that owns $2.25 million worth of real estate. So like, you know, that's a pretty sweet deal. It's better than having walked away from it. So it really just depends. I mean, but the thing is, like, you got to know, if you're going to do a partnership, you need to know the people. You need to make sure you work well together. You need to know your long-term goals, because you might get stuck with a property for like 40 years and one of you wants to sell and one of you doesn't. You never know. And then you're going to want to know, like, if there's disputes, like, how do you resolve them? If there's, you know, if you're going to dissolve the LLC, like what that looks like you need to think through all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. What's your mental process when it comes to real estate? Do you believe like the more units I get, the more the better I'll be, or is it like the more cash flow? Like, because a lot of people, they're thinking like, hey, if I pay, it's more of like, do you want to pay these 5 houses off, or would you rather have 25 houses on a loan? You know what I mean? So what is your mental process? Do you want to be financially free, or do you want to be the next Grant Cardone? You be the next 10x?
Well, I am financially free.
Oh yeah.
But
What's your mental process whenever it comes to like?
I like buying houses.
Yeah.
I like the game. I like the thrill of the hunt. I like the negotiations. I like
Just love playing Monopoly
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, I'm still buying a crap load of stuff and I don't really need to be. So there's all kinds of arguments. I could stop and pay everything down. And I've thought about it. Like, I think about it every now and then. I got this one fourplex that I bought for 90 that makes me like $800 a month in cash flow. That I'm like, that's a sweet deal. And that's like it's probably like $600 a month in like true cash flow. But I mean, I bought it for 90 and it rents for $2,000 a month. So it does all right. But like, and I've thought about just dumping the cash flow from all the other properties into that one and paying it off real quickly. But it's like, well, my mortgage on that's like $300 a month. So it's like, I'm going to pay off $90,000 worth of debt and I'll make an extra $300 a month on it. Well, if for that $90,000 worth of debt that I'm paying off on that property, I could buy, I don't know, math in public, whatever, you know, 15,000 down on $100,000 house. Let's say 20. If you say 20, at least 4 more houses, you know? So if I buy 4 houses and each of them makes me even just $100 a month in cash flow, then I'm still making an extra $100 a month more than I would have paying off the house. So like, it really just depends. It's all part, you know, but that's obviously that's more risky because now I have 5 mortgages that are all fairly highly leveraged. So it's got some risk attached to it, but as long as they cash flow and you have cash reserves, you know, you're going to run into issues. I mean, we just had a tenant destroy one of our houses when we evicted him. But we have insurance and we have 20 grand in the account for things like that. So between the two of those, we'll be okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. And what's your point of view on like crypto, stocks, NFTs, of course? What's your view on those other money-making resources?
I'm no diddly about NFTs. I know enough to know what I'm talking about, but I don't know enough to know how to invest in them. Crypto, it's very volatile. And so people are making a lot of money with crypto and NFTs and whatever. They are also not usually posting when they lose a lot of money, doing the exact same thing, right? Like, they only post their wins. Nobody's going online and being like, I just lost $100,000 because of this one trade. Like, that doesn't sell their course, right? So, you know, you got to keep an eye on how honest they are and how much they actually disclose their transactions. I'll tell you, I turned like $2,500 into 14 grand last year in crypto, just gambling away and fucking around and like buying like $200 and a whole bunch of random coins. And then if one of them jumped, selling a big chunk and using that money to gamble in other ones. I got into Doge when it was 1/3 of a cent.
Yeah.
So I turned, you know, $200 into like $4 grand with Doge. I did the same with Shiba and like, but that was me just like gambling with play money. It wasn't my actual investment strategy. And while those returns are great, I made a whole lot more money in real estate last year. As far as the stock market, I love the stock market. The thrift savings plan is amazing. Index funds are amazing. TSP, 401k, like all that stuff's great. I maxed out my TSP last year. I've got 6 figures in my thrift savings plan. I've got, I love index funds. I've got an index fund for both of my boys. They're both close to 10 grand now. I put all the stimuluses last year into index funds for my boys. So I've got 2 boys and they both have like 9 grand in an account that's going to keep growing while they're, whatever. I put $100 a month into each account while, whatever. So I don't like day trading and I don't like individual stock picking usually because unless you're, like a congresswoman or congressman or work, somewhere where exactly what's going on in the world, you're not really going to outpace like the S&P 500. Like the data is very distinct that very few people historically beat the market average consistently enough to actually be able to say, oh yeah, I did that, other than like for short periods of time. And those guys are like true professionals. They're not like the Marine who's gambling and Robin Hood, right? So I prefer funds or S&P 500 or index funds like Vanguard to actually like picking stocks any day of the week.
Nice. Yeah, that's my same thing. Like if you have play money, use that on like whatever you think it's just speculating like, hey, crypto's gonna go up. So I'm like, all right, just put your money in there. I like stocks as well. If you get dividends, I aim for dividend stocks. It's like passive income. So
dividend stocks are cool. And there's some cool stuff like it's not a dividend stock, but like Algorand, right, is a crypto that pays you like 4% for owning it. So like it's like having a super high yield savings account, but then the coin itself also goes up in value. So like I've still got, I don't know, $1,500 in Algorand and I already sold a bunch of it.
Nice.
And I've got, so I definitely like those things, but I just, the more risky an asset is, the less percentage of your portfolio it should make up.
Okay. And what would you recommend to someone that's like 19, 20, 18, and they're house hacking, right? And what would you recommend to them to trying to scale up in real estate, knowing that they don't have the only education that they have is probably YouTube, the books that they read, and that's all they got. So they're financially aware. They're financially aware, and they're just trying to scale up. What would you recommend to those young men and women?
I would say, first off, save every penny that you would have been spending on housing. So if you were going to be spending 1,000 on housing and now you're house hacking and you're spending 100, then save that $900 a month that you would have been spending on housing, put it somewhere to invest. Obviously I would read books and podcasts and everything else, but I would get around people who are doing the same thing or people who are wanting to do the same thing. So if you're, shameless plug, we have a mastermind group, right? So it's like $50 a month for service members and veterans who are serious about real estate investing. It's not, I mean, you join, you get free access to my course, and some other stuff, right? But like, it's not built as like a coaching, like here's how to buy your house program. It's built as like, you'll have a small group call with other service members and vets who have similar goals. You'll do accountability group, you'll do goals, you'll do whatever. And then we have weekly calls, and then and the whole point is to surround yourself with people who are crushing it as, in real estate or whatever, as service members, right? So they're all like, we made it to where you have to be a service member or a veteran to join. I don't even think I want to say we allowed one spouse in. I don't remember. But I mean, service members and veterans, so they're all very similarly minded, but we've got guys in there who own 1,000 units. So it's like you're getting around everyone from E2 who just bought their first house to we've got an 06 who owns, runs a borderline $1 million company. But you're surrounding yourself with people who are thinking the same way you are and have similar goals. So they're going to push you in the right direction rather than like, you say, oh, I'm going to buy this house. And somebody who's never bought a house is like, don't do that. Buying a house is scary. Like, that's not who you want to be around.
Yeah. And you're saying that you want to surround yourself as a young person, you want to surround yourself with those like people that are better than you, I guess. And how you can, or people with
say it that way.
People that are like-minded, because I hear it all the time.
They're going the same direction and they're further down the road. I put it this way, right? If you are you're in high school and you're on the JV football team, right? Like you practice with the JV, whatever. But if you want to get better, you're going to hang out with the dudes who play varsity, or you're going to want to spend time with the coach, or you're going to want to spend time watching YouTube videos from guys who made it in the NFL or whatever, right? Like you want to focus on spending time with, around, questioning people who've made it to the level that you're trying to make it to. If you're a JV football player in your high school and you're like, I want to make it on varsity, but you spend all your time talking to like the middle school dudes, like you're not going to become that better football player by being the big guy hanging out with middle schoolers. Like you're going to become that better football player by hanging out with the guys who are on the varsity team and talking to the coach for the varsity team and whatever. Right. So same with like real estate or anything. Like if you surround yourself with a dude who owns, like my buddy Matt, who owns like 300,000 or 300 doors and like $9 million in real estate on his own, and never partnered with anyone, like that's somebody you're going to learn something from more than if you just hang out with somebody who like, is a renter and thinks that you shouldn't buy a house because they haven't been able to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. And whenever you're trying to find your like, whenever in real estate, what is your target in finding good deals? Like, what's your rule of thumb? A lot of people, they probably still use the 1% rule. Even I don't think it works like that anymore.
I find that all day long. But I also spend a lot of money marketing. So
yeah.
Right now we're buying 75% of after repair value minus repairs minus whatever fee we want as a wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I might buy $100,000 house for $45,000, but it needs, $20,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
So it really just depends. I think most important is knowing your market, right? Like knowing where you want to invest, knowing how you want to invest, and then just getting familiar enough with your market that you can say, hey, in this neighborhood, if it's this price or lower, we'll buy it, as long as it's in this condition. It doesn't, like, there's no one size fits all. The 1% rule is great, but it's not necessary. You can do better. You can do worse. You can buy at 0.8%. You can buy at 2%, and you're still going to have ups and downs. And it really depends, because a 0.5% property in San Diego that you bought 5 years ago would have done a whole lot better for you than a 2% property in Missouri did from 5 years ago, because that 2% property might have cash flowed, but that 0.5% property in San Diego might have tripled in value. But you would have no idea. And if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would tell you you're crazy for buying a property that doesn't cash flow. So it really depends on your style.
Gotcha. That's a good point. And in real estate and in life, right? Two things. What are some obstacles you faced? What is your biggest obstacle you face in real estate? And what's the biggest obstacle you face in life?
I feel like they're both the same thing. Getting out of your own way. And that takes a lot of forms. The most common for me is imposter syndrome, which is like the idea that like, who am I to teach a course on this? Nobody's going to listen, or I'm not an expert in that, or, oh, I'm not cool enough to be on stage here, or,
yeah,
oh, I don't deserve to buy a 10 unit yet because I only own one house, or, that voice in your head that just says like, you're not good enough to do this, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
But there's also the side of getting in your own way that's like, I'm building a business and I'm, like my assistant, she's like, you did this. And I'm like, crap, I didn't mean, like I forgot to do all this stuff last week. And she's like, well, maybe if you hadn't, like, prime example, a month ago, I told her like, hey, I know I'm wasting time. I know I'm doing things like I'm really working on my schedule. I've set these boundaries, whatever. Here's what I want you to do. I sent her an email. I said, do not mention this email to me again. Over the next couple of weeks, I want you to take notes of anytime you see me getting like super fucking distracted or like just wasting like massive amounts of time, like going to the bathroom, whatever. But like if I'm just like screwing around, And I was like, just email it to me, like out of nowhere in like 2 or 3 weeks. Just, I'm going to forget that I sent you this, whatever. Sure enough, like a week or two later, I get this email and it was like, she totally, like one day I literally sat in here and I probably even had, I don't know that I had my feet up on the desk, but I mean, I was just sitting here and she had noticed that I was like just scrolling through TikTok for like 35 minutes, and it's like, well, that's a huge waste of time, and I just got distracted and it happens. So it's
It
like
does
getting out of your
happen.
own way, like, hiring when you need to hire, or paying someone else to do something that they'll do better than you, or just that you don't like doing. Or it's just believing that you're good enough to do, it's just,
Yeah. It's like, instead of like, you like, instead of, you could just pay someone to mow the lawn for you. Like, especially, you expect like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos to mow their own lawn. If for pleasure, maybe, but they're probably thinking of ideas. Like, look at Elon. He's sending like rockets to Mars. Do you expect him to like think about, oh, I gotta mow my lawn? No, he's thinking of ideas to like reinvent, come up with new inventions. That's just him. And once you scale up, you're gonna have the same mindset. Uh, what is your team structure right now? Like, who's in your team?
I have a full-time executive assistant, a commission-based acquisitions manager partner, 2 virtual assistant cold callers, and then a whole lot of like smaller, like more task oriented. So like I have a VA who does my transcriptions. I have a VA who does my thumbnails. I have a VA who does my video editing. Well, those are all like kind of task specific. Full-time structure is just 2 cold callers, assistant, and acquisitions guy.
Where do you find those virtual assistants? Do you use Fiverr?
I use, it depends. So for task specific stuff, a lot of times Fiverr. I've used Fiverr a lot. My video editors on Upwork. For more full-time positions, online jobs. Onlinejobs.ph is probably my go-to. Bunch of like Filipino virtual assistants. They're affordable and usually really damn good. My cold callers I hired through a company that a friend of mine started, where she actually like interviews them and trains them and brings them onto your team. That was a lot more expensive. Like that's like $2,500 a head, whereas like Fiverr, you can go on there and just say, hey, I'll pay you $40 to do this one thing.
Yeah. And what was that website you said? It was online.
Onlinejobs.ph. And I've got if you go to my YouTube channel, I've got a video on like how to use it and everything.
Gotcha.
And I think I have a discount code too. But
nice. And they're like, so what do you people are like, okay, why do I need an assistant? You know what I mean? Like, what would you recommend to those that how do they find ways to utilize an assistant?
It's a lot harder than you think. I've been wasting her time for months trying to like, she's been like, hey, you got any more work for me to do? Like, oh yeah, let me think. So, whatever. But it's totally worth it. I mean, she does a ton. She manages my Facebook group. She manages my email. She manages, I'd be totally overwhelmed if I tried to take over what she's doing now. And so it's allowed me to focus on more valuable things like, YouTube for one thing, right? Like that's not necessarily the most valuable thing in the world, but filming content brings more people into the fold, which is very beneficial.
And how do you get those good assistants, or anybody that's on your team to be that trustworthy, where you can trust them with your email, trust them with your Facebook group, basically impersonate you?
Yeah, you just take blackmail photos of them and then hold it over their head. I'm just kidding. It's just a painful part of growing up, I guess. I mean, she has like full access to my inbox. So, if I do or say or see weird things, like she's going to know it all. So, but it took a little while. Like I didn't give her my email right away. She worked with me for like 3 months before I was like, hey, I want you to start taking over my inbox. So it took time.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of people, they have that trust issue. They're like, there's a password for a reason. It's only for mine.
And I mean, I still haven't even gotten to the point where she has like a company, debit card. I have given her my debit card run tasks, run errands and stuff. But I haven't gotten to the point yet where it's like, here's a card,
Yeah.
have
And
fun, you know.
do you expect them to stick with you for a long time, or do you expect them to like level up and like move on to bigger things?
It depends. I would like to think that a lot of them will stay, and the way to do that is to treat them right. But easier said than done. I have no idea. My acquisitions guy is very ambitious,
Yeah.
and if I don't start giving him a little bit more, more
More of
opportunity, well, he's doing all right there. He makes 25%. Well, 20%, and then an extra 5 if he finds the buyer. But that's better than a lot of people pay their acquisitions guys. But so he's doing very well in that regard, but he's also like he's wanting to, I don't like, he'd like to move into like more of a partner role or take a, ownership of the company. So we're gonna feel all that out as we grow.
Yeah.
But if I just kept him in the acquisitions role and never let him take on any other projects, like he's running one of our renovations right now, but if I just literally was like, no, this is all you do, yeah, he'd leave. But it's just knowing your people, right? Like I gotta keep him happy that way. My assistant, like if I miss a payment, like whatever, or don't give her a raise, she might leave. It just depends.
Yeah. And what was your I know your big why back then was to become financially free. Now that you are financially free, what is your big why right now?
And I'm still trying to figure out my life now. I think most of it's just helping service members and vets, right? I just like helping other people. And I just enjoy the game, but I don't have like I'm kind of trying to rework my vision.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I people are like, oh, I'm getting older and I'll finally realize that no, you're going to be living like right now with this mindset. You're gonna have a present time that you're 40. You're gonna feel like you still have an opportunity no matter what. So any age you'll have an opportunity. So what do you spend your time? What is your schedule looking like every single day now?
It's a work in progress. I'm no longer taking calls and scheduling stuff on weekends or after 5 p.m. I don't schedule anything prior to 11. So from like whenever I show up at the office to 11 is my like thinking time or recording time or task time. And then it really depends. Like Mondays are meetings for all my businesses. And then Tuesdays, I try to focus on content. Wednesdays, I focus on like recording my podcast. Thursdays, I focus on like projects or being a guest on other podcasts. And then Fridays are just kind of like tie up loose ends. And I'm ultimately trying to get to where I can like work from home on Fridays, but yeah, we'll see.
Nice. And well, what other resources do you use? Like I know a lot of people that say prop stream. You showed us the IGBA, right? The app where you get all the what other resources and tools do you use?
Oh man. Prop stream for sure. REI Sift, RE Simply, Calendly, Zoom, Google, a ton. Honestly, the best answer is I have a resource page on the website that lists a bunch of them, but
yeah, is it on your website?
But it's always changing. I mean,
yeah,
it's so hit or miss depending on what you're looking to do.
Yeah.
We use a ton of stuff.
Yeah, because you just showed me that app and I was like, what the hell? I usually just see I usually just type in banks near me and then on Google I'm like, I'll just call them up. But I never knew about that. And that's pretty
it's
cool.
just a cool way to find like local banks.
Okay. And so this is a good question right here for especially for the young guys here. They want to know like what makes a good friend, right? Because a lot of these guys, they have friends from high school or friends that treat them like they're not helping them grow, right? And they put them in a friend category because they've been growing up with them and they're just so used to it's like you can't get rid of your sister or brother because you guys are brother and sisters. So what makes someone a good friend, or how do you find that good friend?
Man, I would say that's going to change a lot in life. And there's nothing wrong with like wanting to stay their friend, but you need to evaluate how much time and how much precedence you give in your life if they're not adding to it. So I have friends from high school that I still talk to and hang out with when I'm in town, but I don't call them all the time because, like we don't have anything in common when it comes to like the real estate side or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
I have changed my friend group to relate, like I want to call my buddy who's worth $5 million and owns, $10 million worth of real estate to ask a to talk about problems. And I think a lot of that is less cutting people out of your life. Although if they're negative, like just drama all the time, you totally should. And you should even like just make that like a hard line in the sand. Like, hey, dude, look, we've been friends forever. Love you. I can't spend as much time with you because it seems like you just always have like drama, problems, and negativity, and it's like it's hard, right? Like I can't, whatever. Like you don't necessarily have to tell them that. You can just ghost them.
Yeah.
You can tell them. It really just depends on your style. I've definitely told people before. I mean, I had two different people. Like one of my things is not taking unscheduled calls. Unless it's like super important throughout the day. Like I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah.
And I had a guy call me today, and he calls me every now and then, but like he only really calls me when there's like a problem that he needs me to solve. And they're always like long conversations. And a lot of times they're answers that could be found out, himself.
Easy. Yeah.
And I have several friends like that actually. And I've just kind of gotten to a point like today, he was one of two people that called that both got a text that basically said, hey, I'm working on not taking unscheduled calls. What's up? And we handled it in a couple text messages, whatever. But it could have very easily been a 25-30 minute conversation in which it's like me just answering, questions that are like, dude, you don't need me for this. And you don't want to, it's like a fine line. You don't want to be a total jerk, but at the same time, like you want to spend time around people who are chasing those goals, and they're not, it's going to naturally happen because those people who have no aspirations that you've known since high school are not going to be interested in all your other crap. And they're going to want to hang around the same person. Like your friend from high school who just wants to smoke weed all day and like bitch about his life is going to stay hanging out with the people who want to smoke weed all day and bitch about their life. And you're just going to go your separate ways, and there's gonna be like no hard feelings. And like, yo, I'll hang out with you when I'm in town if you want. But like, like if you want to be successful, you're going to stop hanging out with that person. You're going to go hang out with the guy who like, hey, maybe they smoke weed. I don't care. Right. Like that doesn't have anything to do with your success, but like, they smoke weed and buy $1 million apartment complexes. I don't know, they don't smoke weed and like, they've got their goals, their priorities, their whatever. So like, it's all priorities.
Okay. So that's interesting because I talked to someone about, they're like, hey, yeah, you should never make enemies, or again, don't cut off people like that either, because again, you want to bring them as an associate, right? Like, yeah, we know each other, we're cool with each other, that's about it. But again, if you guys can just spend as much less time, if they're like really negative towards you, like for example, you can't get rid of your family, of course. But if you see like they're always dramatic, just be like, just tone it down. You don't got to FaceTime them every single day, right? FaceTime them once a week. You know what I mean? It takes time.
Yeah, you don't owe anybody your energy.
Yeah.
And if they're a drain on your energy, don't spend time with them.
Mm-hmm.
Spend time with people who hype you up.
Of course. And David, if you could go back, there's a cliche question, right? If you can go back to young David, right? 18 years old, right? You said he had like a mullet or something going on?
Afro.
Okay. So what would you tell him? Like, he's like,
don't spend as much money on dumb shit. Buy real estate a lot sooner. And put a whole lot more money in your TSP.
Yeah.
And know which fund to put it in. Because when I started, it all went in the G fund and I never touched it. So I missed out on a lot of gains.
Of course. And I the one thing I did like about your book is that you're like, hey, categorize some money for beer money, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. So I'm like, dude, that's awesome, because like I didn't realize, like, because some people, they feel negative when they're like, oh, I gotta go drink, right? But as long as you categorize it as like, oh, beer money, gas money, all this money, you'll be fine. Do you have envelopes for all of them too?
Yeah, I don't use the envelopes as much anymore, but like just for proof of concept, like there's entertainment, $100 a month, $50 a payday, alcohol, $20 a month. Now that was, I say $20 a month. I'm not a huge drinker anymore. But at the same time, my alcohol budget would be a lot higher right now because I would buy a lot classier stuff. But like at the time, it was literally like I might buy a bottle and it'll last me for the month, you know.
Yeah.
My budget would be totally different right now than that is, but it would still be, you know, I don't track it as much as I did just because I've kind of reached a point where like if I'm off by 50 to $100, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, a perk.
But the important thing that I saw in that is that you actually categorize that, because you know, like, you do that instead of like lying to yourself.
Yeah, I knew I was going to buy a 6-pack or 2 or a bottle every month, so I needed to put, hey, I'm going to buy this shit, here's some money for it.
Yeah. Like for you guys here, right? Let's say you guys know that you guys need money for Uber, or you need money for that new video game, right? Just categorize that. So that means, like, if you don't have the money for it, don't use it. All right. But you know there's gonna be money in it because that's how you categorize your shit. And that's how you prioritize your stuff. And you can learn your habits through there too. Like, what does your money go into? Now, David, we're gonna go through the participation question here. We're gonna start off with Devin Hicks here. All right. Go ahead, Devin. State your question. Oh, you're muted, by the way.
Should be bottom left. Yeah, you're good now.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we got you.
Thank you for waiting on me too, man. But how you doing, Mr. David?
Doing well, brother. Yourself?
I'm good. I know I came in here a little late, but I did have a couple of personal growth questions. Question for you. Now, you said that you were financially free, and I know that did not come easy. What was one of the greatest challenges or the toughest challenges you had to face on your journey to financial freedom, and then how did you overcome that?
It's the same problem that I still deal with. It's not spending all your money on dumb shit.
Okay.
It's you know, knowing where your money goes and making sure that you allocate money to go places, but you've got to pay yourself first. So you have to say, okay, I'm going to put $1,000 in this account for investing every month, and then I can spend whatever's left over, rather than like, I'm going to spend all this money, and then if I have money left over, I'll invest it. Because if you're anything like me, when you're 21, you'll spend it all and have nothing left to show for it.
Right. Okay. So have a decent budget.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just making sure like you put some money aside for investing before you spend money on all the other crap.
Right. Okay. Okay.
It's one thing to be like, I'm going to buy 3 tattoos and then maybe I'll have some money left to invest. But it's another thing to be like, I already spent money to invest, so now I can only afford 2 tattoos. Like, okay, well, that's, you know, that's not that you would rather buy 3 tattoos, but I guarantee you long term, you'll be a lot happier with 2 and money to invest. You can buy a 3rd one next month. So just kind of learning that.
All right. I did have one more question. What do you think is the best way to develop aggressive negotiation skills? Is it through reading or just getting out there and trying to make sales?
Yes. So I would read Never Split the Difference. I like that book.
Okay.
I would also read Like Switch, which is all about like getting people to like you, and how to win friends and influence people. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Chris Voss, he's awesome. Never Split the Difference is definitely a book to read. And then from there, I would definitely get reps, get practice. But the most important things in negotiations are gonna be like rapport, so knowing the other person and having them like you and know you and trust you.
Okay.
Really understanding their problems and goals, and then like always aiming for like win-win solutions, right? So like if you go into something with like a mentality of like I have to win, then you're going to lose a lot of negotiations. But if you go into like how can we find a solution that works for both of us, you're going to, you got to make them an offer they can't refuse.
Right.
And you got to know when to walk away.
Yeah.
Okay. Know when to walk away. All right. Well, thank you. Thank
Because
you, David.
I'm trying to find some seller financing, right? And then a tip that I got from Cody, he was the guy from our other podcast, the one I did 81 units at 21. He told me that, hey, if they want to do seller financing, they want to do seller financing. But if they don't, they don't. So just move on to the person that wants to do it. Or don't waste your time on people that don't want to do business with you. You're just wasting your time, wasting their time. Just move on.
Seller financing is definitely out there.
Yeah.
He's got
fish it out
deals that way right now.
Yeah. And that was Devin Hicks. He's in the military as well, 27 years old. And we got Sami Shabus here. All right. He's about to graduate high school. He's about to do college, I believe. I'm kind of confused on what he's trying to do because he's always like, Sami, unmute yourself.
He had ice cream too.
Oh yeah, he did.
Hello, my name is Sami. So like basically like I'm still young, right? Like I'm still like lost in what I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
But like I'm trying to ask like what would you do in your free time? And like when would you recommend like getting a secretary? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, getting the secretary is kind of a weird one because it's like or assistant. It's kind of a weird one because it's like it costs money. It is it's whatever. You could probably find like a virtual assistant in the Philippines for like a couple $100 a month. And I think the craziest story I've ever heard with anyone with like a virtual assistant is my buddy Ryan. My buddy Ryan who did his senior year virtually and had a virtual assistant do all his homework. But anyway, so like you can use them for all kinds of things. So like assistants, whatever. I would just say like there's a book, Who Not How, that kind of talks about hiring. It's less about how to hire and more about like how to use people to solve problems rather than like you might not need to figure out how to do like logo design because you could hire somebody to design your logo for you and move on to the next thing. So like it's just kind of helps you figure out like when to start hiring people. So I would read that book. As far as free time, it really depends. I would definitely spend some time reading a book here and there, listening to some podcasts, whatever. But I mean, enjoy life. Like there's nothing that says you have to like be miserable all the time because you're working towards your goals. Like find people that you want to hang out with and spend time with them, but just make sure that you're just spend time to be a little bit productive every day. Like even if you took like a Saturday, you took the whole day off, but maybe you do like one or two things in the morning that works towards your goals, whether that's like read a chapter of a book or have a phone call with a buddy or whatever. Like you're still moving forward, but enjoy your day off. Like we're supposed to get snow tomorrow and I'm probably going to just screw around all day and four-wheeler and mess around in the snow. I don't know.
With your groups, right? You guys can do like fun stuff too. Like when I mean fun stuff, you can also learn. So you could play the Rich Dad Poor Dad cash flow game, right?
Yep.
And you can, if you're trying to get some properties, right? You're trying to wholesale, you can like knock on doors with your friends, right? Do it together. Like, hey, let's see if we can do this together, or let's see if we can go up to this, like build some like cold approaching confidence, right? You can ask out that girl, right? You guys can like work together, probably record each other, right? See what you do wrong, see what you do right. Just have a wingman on your side at all times. Like that's what you can do as a group of guys, of a group of team. You can do a lot of things. Just implement your goals with your friends, and like you'll see that they're also gonna intertwine, and you guys are gonna have the same goals eventually. And you guys are gonna like the same stuff. All right. Now we have David Alakambi. He's doing Jrotc. And yeah, go ahead.
What up? All
right. So my question is, how did you deal with your family / parents when you want to do your own things like the military or real estate? Like, how did you deal with them just not agreeing with you, or just like, yeah, something turns to laugh?
I'll tell you this. I made a YouTube video that you should check out about joining the military if your parents don't want you to. Because I experienced that. Like my mom dragged me to every college in Arkansas because she didn't want me to join the military. And ultimately they love it now. But I mean, I had to wait till I turned 18 to sign the paperwork on my own. I would just keep in mind that ultimately they're still going to love you,
Yeah.
but you're going to be a lot happier doing what you are passionate about in life, even if you fail, than doing what someone else wants you to do in life if you don't want to do it, whether you're successful or not. Right. And like,
Right.
so being passionate and purposeful about your life, and it's not easy. Right. But I mean, it may just simply be like, look, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. I'm going to do this. Like, I would love it if you support me on this, but I'm going to do it either way. So, and it's not like an easy spot to be in. I've been there. But I'll tell you, after having been a recruiter, like I saw some parents who were like hell bent. Again, I had a kid who, he wanted me to talk to him about the Marine Corps. So we set up an appointment to come talk at his house, and his dad wouldn't let me in the house. Like, that's how against the military they were. He was like, no, you're not coming in here. You're not talking to my kid. He's going to school, blah, blah, blah. And like a month into college, he was like, yeah, this sucks. Dropped out and came and talked to me about the Marine Corps, joined the Marine Corps, left. Parents hated my guts, comes back from boot camp, and like parents love me now. Right. So that's very common, is that like they go to boot camp, they come back, and parents are like, oh, okay, yeah, like you're a man now, or you like your life is not a shit show, like you've got your stuff together, like so I saw that a lot, and I would just say, like, if that's really what you want to do, like you owe it to yourself to do what you want to do, because it's your life. It's not easy, but you'll be a lot happier doing that.
Mhm. Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate
Yep.
you.
Anytime, brother.
Yeah, and a lot of parents, they like it when you're at home and you're safe, but they love it more whenever you're gone and you can basically provide for yourself, survive by yourself, meaning that now that if they ever do die, right, now they can go away knowing that you can provide for yourself instead of being a handicap. You know what I mean? So that's another thing. Here's Josh. He's also about to join the military as well, I believe. And he's about to graduate high school.
Still on the fence about it, but it's definitely an option that's worth considering. But I have two questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
My first one is, I ask this a lot just because it relates to me. I'm going to set the settings. So you're a month away from being 18. You saved up $7,000 from working. What are your first few steps?
I suppose that would probably hinge on whether or not you join the military. Because if you don't and you had credit, then depending on where you live, I would say, man, if you had $7,000 saved up, you could put 3.5% down on a $100,000, $150,000 house plus closing costs. You could buy a single family house that has 3 or 4 bedrooms and rent all the other bedrooms out so that your friends are rooming with you and paying for your mortgage. Or you could buy a duplex and live in one unit, rent the others out, house hack. And now you're like, I might have spent $6,000 down on this house, but I own a house. So now people are paying me to live here, and I'm getting to live here for free so I can keep saving money. But if you like join the military, then you're probably not going to be doing that, because you're going to be, traveling around with the military for a little while, and it'll at least take you a little while to get stationed somewhere and, settle in. So at that point, I would probably stick it in an index fund. So I would read the book Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. And I would learn about index funds because I love them. And then I would just stick it in an index fund that you choose and just let it do its thing. And, then if you need to pull the money out, you can. It doesn't have tax or penalty implications, but it'll continue to grow without you having to do anything with it. And yeah, it may drop. I mean, if the market drops, it'll drop. But as long as you leave it there, it'll keep growing. So. Right. That would probably be my one of 2 go-tos.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
and my second question is, from a young guy's perspective, we look at debt and it's extremely overwhelming. Our parents who aren't as financially smart, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, they look at debt. It's the biggest negative ever. unless it's of course a house, a car, student loans. There's that the hypocrisy in that area. But for I guess my question is, how do you manage that personally?
Oh, I have a lot of debt. A lot. My wife is very Dave Ramsey. She hates debt. And so we have this conversation every now and then. I think as long as you use debt to buy you something that will make you more money than the debt is costing you, then ultimately you're okay. But there's a risk level for sure, because debt is inherently risky, right? Because if you don't make your payments on your mortgage, that's not good. But if you have some reserves set up, some cash set aside, and you take on debt on something that's going to go up in value that other people are going to pay you for owning, like I usually, the way I look at it is like, for me, the number is 7%, but I look at like, is this good debt or bad debt? So is this debt that's bringing me income? And is this debt that I could, so if I had debt that's like 12% interest, I'm going to pay that debt off before I do anything else. But if I have debt that's like 3% interest, like an auto loan, I'm not really worried about paying that off. I haven't paid off any of my auto loans because it's like, well, I can go and invest that money and make a lot more than 3% return. So just making sure that you have that balance, right? You don't ever need to over leverage and leverage to the hilt and go crazy, but there's, in my opinion, nothing wrong with borrowing money, as long as it's tied to an asset.
Thank you.
Nice. All right. Our next one is Alex. He's in the military. He's a mechanic.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, David?
Good, brother. Yourself?
Doing good. This another day, another dollar. Just gotta ask a question about VA.
Yeah.
So, what I heard and what I've been told before in the past is that I could use that VA. Say I get like a $500,000 loan, and I could use that VA on multiple properties, which is that one loan. Can I still do that, or is there something else?
So it's different loans. So it's different. So it's the VA loan, but it's like you could buy a house and then you could buy another house down the road at your next duty station or whatever. It's all the VA loan, but it's different uses. You can only buy one property with the VA loan at a time, and you have to occupy that house. Now you could buy, like, if there were two houses on one like tax lot, then you could buy that, or you could buy a fourplex, but it's like one purchase that you plan to live in at a time.
Okay. And I got another question.
Yep.
Since you say we could use the VA loan multiple times, I think that's what you said.
Yep.
Is there a wait time for that, or can I just apply again?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird puzzle, because you're supposed to live in the house, and generally that's supposed to be like a year for most. I mean, it's not like a hard and fast rule in the guidelines, but most lenders will require a year. The general rule is like, unless something changes. So like if you PCS'd 6 months later, then you could use it again. If you found yourself married with like 2 kids all of a sudden, like, holy crap, I bought this 2-bedroom house, now I need like a 3 or 4-bedroom house, then you could probably use it again. But you can't like just take out 3 VA loans and buy like 3 houses on the same street within like a month of each other, right? Because it's like, well, you're supposed to live in the house. Like, it's a special benefit for people to buy their, a place to live. So that's kind of the guideline. It really just kind of depends on your situation.
And then I got one more question. So let's say if you're on deployment and you end up buying that house and everything, but if you're away from, because how I used to pay my bills, I don't pay them automatically. I pay them manually by myself, so I could actually see that by myself. And let's say you have no access. Is there a way, like, let's say your wife can do it and some other stuff like that? Because I know some people who just don't let their wife take charge of the bills and stuff like that. And
she can. Yeah, that's totally fine. All right. They don't really care who pays your mortgage as long as your mortgage payment gets made.
Alrighty.
Yeah. You probably want your wife to buy it to pay for it too. Make sure she's the right one too. So
I would.
No, you're good. Now we have Gabe right here. Gabe, Wonder if he's there.
Yeah, I think he said he was out with his family, so he was
Oh,
like
okay.
at a restaurant and in
Yeah, I
this
got you.
call,
Yeah, no
so he might
problem.
not be able to hear us.
But yeah, I'll go with the last questions I have for you, David.
Sounds good.
So, what is that one tip that helped you succeed so far in like real estate?
And just take an action.
Taking action.
Yeah, if you don't, yeah, all the education and information and people and talking about it in the world isn't going to help if you never like take the next step.
Nice. Yeah, I do believe. What is that saying where you're just gathering a bunch of information? There's
Analysis paralysis.
analysis paralysis. Yeah. Don't fall into that. So I go with what FDR said, all readers are not leaders, but all leaders are readers. So what are some books that you would recommend for the guys here? Real estate, self-improvement, anything. The best books you could think of. Except for Rich Dad Poor Dad.
So
All right.
if you're joining the military or
Yes.
thinking about it,
There you go.
mine, the No BS Guide to Military Life, because it's like covers everything you need to know for your first few years and the VA loan and the TSP and all the things that I wish I'd known when I joined. Rich Dad Poor Dad is good for mindset, but I think from there it really depends on what you want to get better at, right? So like I kind of mentioned a book or two to everybody for that question, and so it really depends on like what it is that you're struggling with, right? So like, you know, if you're looking to build a business, I would say Traction, but if you're not, then like that book would mean nothing to you. So I would say another good one though is The 5-Hour Work Week.
Yeah.
By Tim Ferriss.
You mean a 4-hour work week?
Yeah, The 4-Hour Work Week. I'm sorry, I caught that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know. I mean, most of the books that I mentioned are probably those. Set for Life is another good one by Scott Trench.
No, yeah, I read that one. That was a good one. That was like it's like the Millionaire Next Door book too. It's like being frugal. That's all you really need.
Yep.
I think David here had a question.
I was just gonna ask, what do you do? What do you practice on like self-improvement? What are your like everyday things or like morning routines on self-improvement?
Yeah, I journal every morning. So I write out, I use the intention journal. And so every morning I plan my day. I write my 3 biggest goals that I'm currently working towards. I write like my most important next step to achieve those goals. And then at the end of the day, I kind of recap. And then I just make sure I'm reading, you know, whether I'm listening to an audiobook while I drive to work or physical book at the house. Just depends.
All right. And the last question here. What is planned for you out for 2022 in the next 5 years, David? What are your goals?
Lots of options there. I'm really trying to kind of figure out what I enjoy the most about my businesses. But I don't know. I mean, biggest goals I'd like to hit, you know, I'd like to get to like 25,000 a month in passive income.
Nice.
And I'd like to own a Ferrari. So
I remember you posted like a Lamborghini, right? Or
my McLaren videos. Yeah. I rented that thing. Cost me $1,000 for a day.
I know you're really, you're making a bunch of TikToks about it too. You're like, oh, look at my, if you buy this class,
I wrote it off.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, that's why I was like, well, if I make videos, then it's a marketing expense, and I still get to take it for a spin.
Nice. And what was I gonna do? I just keep forgetting what I was gonna say, but yeah, I think that's gonna be it for now, David. I do appreciate you coming here. And again, thank you for your time. We did learn a lot from you, and you're probably gonna see these guys being future soldiers, even when you're not recruiting right now. You're recruiting. Something like that.
Definitely not recruiting right now. I've got a beard and well, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys, and probably the easiest way, if you ever got questions, hit me up, is on Instagram, From Military to Millionaire. So.
Yeah, From Military to Millionaire, and he has his own website, and get his book, The No Bullshit Guide to Military. What is the success or becoming a millionaire?
Life. No BS Guide to Military Life.
There you go.
Appreciate the time, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, you guys have a good one.
Thank you.
too.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.